Sorry about that. Go live. Okay, we are now live everywhere. And I'm gonna just start this out. So hi everyone, welcome to Against the Tide Media's live stream with The Shift. Today we're going to be talking about just some, sorry, my phone is playing a commercial. So we'll be talking about script discussion for The Shift. We have some fans here who have read the script and they'll be giving their reaction. I'll be giving some of my reaction as well, even though I'm not very good at that. But we also will be joined by Brock Heasley, the creator and writer, director of The Shift, and producer Orlando J. Gomez. But let's go ahead and bring them in here. I will be unmuting. Okay, Brock, are we gallery view? Has to unmute. Sorry for everyone. Okay,
there we go.
Unmuted. Awesome. So, welcome everybody. If you could please introduce yourselves. I will start with Brock and we'll just kind of go through pass the ball around type thing. You can throw it to whoever, make sure everybody gets that chance. But we'll be really quick about it. Fair enough.
I guess I'll jump in. Orlando J. Gomez, producer on The Shift, and my favorite ice cream is also mint chip. So, yeah, we're a duo here.
Cara.
I was just realized I was muted when I gave my intro. Nobody heard it. Of course I was.
Classic.
Welcome to Brock's world.
I know. I just need to leave myself unmuted the whole time and don't have to worry about it.
Any idea why Orlando just mentioned his favorite ice cream, but
World may never know.
So Brock, again.
Oh, I'm Brock Heasley, the writer and director of The Shift. My favorite ice cream is mint chip, and Orlando copied me. But also, I think he's telling the truth.
I am telling the truth.
I'm Tera Smith. I'm interview host with Against the Tide Media. I love all things peanut butter, especially ice cream. And I'm going to toss it off to Roxy.
Howdy, y'all. I'm Roxy. I'm a producer, actor, script supervisor, and the best coffee in the world is Turkish.
Barb.
I'm Barb Malburg, and I am an Against the Tide Media host, and I love coffee ice cream. So that's the best of both worlds.
I'll jump in. I'm Adira. I'm the founder and editor of Then God Moved, and my favorite ice cream is probably Jenny's Brown Butter Almond Brittle.
Ooh,
It's really good.
Very
that
specific.
sounds really good.
I'm Cara. I am just a super fan of this film, but I guess my favorite ice cream is definitely chocolate mint chip, but what I want is Brock's birthday cake that he gets every year that his wife makes.
Yeah, that's even better than mint chip ice cream.
That's what I'm going for. I got the recipe.
Oh, did you really? Oh, nice. Yeah, my wife always makes me a nice mint chip cake, and it is better than the ice cream. It's incredible.
Yeah, so I'm Colby. I'm new to the ZoomRoom here and branching out filmmaker, and I think we'll go for 3 for a row. I'm also a mint chocolate chip guy.
There you go.
So I guess I'll jump in here. I'm Noah Bennett. I'm the founder of Against the Tide Media. And I can't have many ice creams because I am allergic to them.
Oh, no.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't know that, but you know it now. But however, I do like everything delicious, made by So Delicious. If you have allergies as well, I would strongly recommend that. But this isn't an advertising place, so I guess we'll start out just basically all of you talking about your journey with the shift, like how you came about it. Like, did someone introduce you to the shift, or did you just like find it while scrolling online? We'll keep this part pretty short since, you know, we've got a lot of other stuff we're going to be talking about today. So I guess I will toss this off to Brock since he made the shift.
Oh, well, I first encountered the shift online right after I posted it, and then I wondered, is anybody ever going to watch this? And then some people did, and that was really cool. So yeah, that's my experience. No, but just the shift actually, I don't think I've ever talked about this as much. The shift actually was a short story that I wrote back in like 2006. So believe it or not, it's like 15 years old. And I never thought I would turn it into a short film, but then when I had an opportunity to make one, I went immediately to that story because I knew two guys talking in a diner, that's pretty cheap. Sure, I can make a film out of that, and then here we are. Was that short enough, Noah?
Yeah, that was perfect.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I guess I will. Yeah, Cara, I think.
I was going to say I'll go next because I think I was the first in this group to know about it. I met Brock on a Facebook post reading the story that kind of led to the shift. And I was so taken by that. And I happened to notice that Dallas Jenkins also, he came in and commented after me. We were both blown away by the writing. And I read the whole book. And so then I found out about the shift later. And the story is still unfolding there. Just watching the short film and understanding why we need it, and then seeing the script. It's just, we'll be talking about it later. But it was a journey starting with just seeing his incredible writing.
And I guess I'll jump in here because I think I was next at this. So I just came across the shift basically first of all, scrolling through social media. And I scrolled right by it because I have a tendency to just, when I come into something new on my own, I barely look into it. But I remember Darren Scott Jacobs, who was one of our hosts for Against the Tide Media, called me, and he was just telling me about this project, you know, and he told me that you, Cara, introduced him to it. And he was just very enthusiastic about it, and I was interested from what he was talking about. But then a few hours later, you, Cara, messaged me and my mom and my sister, and you gave this very, like, you were just talking about how the shift, you know, the impact that you thought it would have. And I know you were a little cautious because, you know, we were all about The Chosen at that time. But yeah, I checked it out, and I just thought that this was, I mean, I watched it and I saw the same thing, you know, my reaction was the same way I did when I saw The Chosen. Just that feeling of, this is a different kind of Christian filmmaking that needs to be shown. It's not that just classic, oh, everything's great type Christian film. And I thought that the way it portrayed Satan, the devil, you know, was also a different way, because you usually think about it, they'll they'll never take that seriously. Like usually it's just this red being with horns or something, and I think it goes even deeper into in the script about how just sorry. This is coming to the moment where it's getting hard for me to talk, so I should probably stop talking very soon. But I just think the script is going to blow everyone. The feature film is going to blow everyone away, and I probably will be giving the longest answer on that than anybody else has. But I talked about it more in our other live stream with the Shift. So maybe a moderator for Against the Tide Media can pop the link in there to for everyone to see that other live stream after it ends. So, time for me to shut up. Roxy might, or Orlando might be next on that.
All right. So the way I was introduced with the Shift was I was away on vacation, and I got a call from somebody on the set of the Shift, or right before you were about to shoot the Shift.
Right before we were about to shoot, yeah. It was like 2 days before.
And they were like, hey, I'm working on this project, and we have this location. We're going to shoot in this diner, but they need insurance, and we don't have insurance. Can we borrow yours? I was like, what? For who? Wait, what? What is?
It was a real professional enterprise.
Yeah. And they're just like, yeah, we're just this project. I don't even think they really told me who it was or what it was, just that it was a job, and that was the roadblock. And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. Okay, let me make some calls. And so we sorted out with the lawyers and the insurance provider. And so that's how I found out about it. And then later on, circled back when I got back into town, like, okay, somebody, what was this thing? What did I accidentally get involved in? So that's how it was. It was kind of accidental, fortuitous.
Yeah. Well, and then you joined up with the crew when we did the outdoor stuff. And then it was your truck, of course, that runs into Kevin's car.
Yeah, that's right. I'm driving that car.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I think that was the day we met. Mm-hmm. Was when we shot all those scenes in the alleyway and in the street. Yeah.
Yep. So there you go.
What is that, Rock in Orlando?
Sorry, say that again,
when
Barb.
Was that?
What
year was that?
That would be December 2015. Yeah, and actually, no, the outdoor stuff was shot on January 3rd, 2016, I think, if I can remember.
And I'd like to just jump into that very quickly, because like when I saw the Shift, it looked new, like something that was just made, and because I didn't think I could probably, have not known about this short film,
right.
But I found that it was like out for what was it, 5 years?
5 years.
Well, it hadn't really been released online in any way that anybody could watch it until like 2019, when it was released onto VidAngel. It was not a film that was intended to, achieve this massive audience. I really just made it to see if I could write and direct something, and I made it because it was a story that was important to me. But I really just thought the cast and crew, and maybe a few film festivals, and that'd be the end of it. So that's why it took so long. It took a long time for the purpose of the Shift to manifest itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think Roxy would be next on that, because I think Cara got Roxy involved pretty early on. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I'm one of the people that Cara and we just connected from way early with The Chosen, or 2019, I think it was, Cara, and we just bonded. You just find your people. God connects his people. Yes. I call it the spiritual game of chess, and it's just like it's just so wonderful to be counted amongst us. So so she reached out and she's like, okay, you check this out, and she knows I'm nerdy type, so she's like, you'll probably really like it. And so of course I watched it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this speaks to every aspect of who we are, because we're more than just one kind of being. We're spiritual and we're nerdy and we're men and women and whatever we are, and it just spoke to so many layers of who I was. And I was like, the writing is fabulous. And so Cara and I were messaging, and she's like, here's Brock, here's the writer. And so I got the opportunity to actually have the one-on-one interaction with Brock. And so that was a treat as well, because you don't always get that with, with a lot of writer directors. And yeah, it's been a wonderful ride, because it was just seeing all of it and then watching it again, and then watching Brock and Aaron and Orlando and the team grow, and just, being part of a family is what it feels like, it's like the birthing pains. And so, yeah, that's how I was introduced.
It's awesome.
Okay, so Tara.
Yeah, I found The Shift on social media, and from there watched the short, followed live streams, social media, and recently watched or listened to the script and read the script. And each layer just gets better and better and better, right? Some things you drift away from. I'm like, come on, I need the next thing. And so how I got connected, and my 14-year-old son, I printed the script off. I like to scribble and mark and write. So when I read the script, that's what I did. So in prep for this, I was trying to find my script and I couldn't find it. My son took it to school. My 14-year-old son took it to school today. So
That's awesome.
it's beyond, just our family, or just me, right? My son's taken to school. So, yeah.
Barb.
Yeah, I'm fairly new to all this. I discovered The Chosen a year ago, right around Easter of last year, and then got connected with Against the Tide Media. And I'm pretty sure I saw The Shift on promoted on Against the Tide Media, and that's where I linked up with watching the short, and really liked it, and got connected with the script from when you did your live with Justin a couple weeks ago, and got reading the script. So I'm super excited about it. Yeah.
Awesome.
Adira.
Yeah, so I got connected with first The Chosen through the Encounter folks, through Timothy and Darren. And then I was talking to Cara, and she was the one who really put The Shift on my radar, because I'd seen it on social media also, like Noah, I kind of seen it and like passed by it. And then Cara was just telling me a lot about Brock and Brock's life and everything he went through as he was putting the script together. And it was just really clear to me that this project is anointed. I was like, oh, this is a God project. Okay. Like $500, and it looks like it was made with $1 million. Like, it's clear that God's hand is in it. And so before I even had a chance to say like, oh, I really want to interview Brock, Cara was like, hey, can you interview Brock? And I was like, yeah, sure. Sure, I can. And so I had Brock on my podcast maybe 2 weeks ago. And yeah, I'm happy to do whatever I can to help, because I just see that it's going to be big. Like it's very clearly like a God thing. So I'm excited to be a part of it.
May I just say you're awesome. Your interview is incredible too. And I'm just so happy to know you.
Happy to know you too.
Yeah. Likewise, I thought it turned out really well.
Yeah.
Colby.
Yeah, so I found about the project kind of twofold. So on one side, when I joined in with Against the Tide Media, one of the goals I had was to basically watch through every single Against the Tide video. I've got 4 left, and then I've seen all of the videos. But one of them on there was, of course, the Shift interviews and whatnot. And then on the other side was I've been keeping up to date with the like the VidAngel studios, kind of like the business side, because I was kind of curious about how that was going alongside with The Chosen and whatnot, and then how they renamed to like the Angel Studios, and then the whole website, and then seeing on the website kind of like the list of projects. There's of course The Chosen, and then like freelancers, and then I see The Shift is on there as like the first movie being on there, and kind of like seeing from those two, that there's definitely something interesting behind this. And then especially once I saw the short film, and especially once I read the script, and picking up kind of the story of kind of like the world with it, that really blew my mind, because especially for me, I really come from like a background, I really love the experience of cinema. For me, when I think of like a story of film and whatnot, one thing I think of, and it's kind of from my acting background, is the performance and like kind of like the world within the story. And for me, it's almost not just, you know, beginning, middle, end. It's kind of, you know, the realm that, you know, everything takes place. And, you know, some like my favorite movies recently, I kind of watched through all like the Chris Nolan movies where it's like, you know, it's like this whole kind of like puzzle in a sense. And it's like you're kind of so enveloped in it, trying to figure out like the mysteries, like, wait, what's going on and all that. Is like it doesn't make sense until certain parts where it starts connecting and whatnot. And the Shift did exactly that. For me, it's just seeing how there's like these mysteries and points like where it didn't make sense, but then to a point where eventually it did. And it's just, I just love kind of like just the way it flowed. And the biggest thing, just how this is all, you know, withholding, you know, Christian values, just, you know, showing, you know, like Broccoli said in one of the interviews, kind of like a spotlight showing, you know, exposing the darkness and just sharing a message of how to basically stand up against, you know, the dark evil when it comes at you, and how to keep strong to God in those moments. So.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I also just wanted to remind everybody, in case you don't know, Colby is in fact involved with Against the Tide Media. He is the newest member of post-production. For all of those filmmakers out there looking for someone to help them with video editing and color correction, that sort of thing. So, a little shout out to you, Colby.
We'll be doing.
I'd just like to say that we have a record-breaking number of 15 watching on YouTube, Facebook, and we have 14 watching on YouTube. So,
Cool.
Everyone watching, please share this on your pages, share it in groups. Really be appreciated. And also, remember, you can ask questions in the live chat. We'll take a look at those, and yeah. So, keep the momentum going. Second of all, I'd like to ask you about, well, first of all, let the fans know. Brock just went out of his mind recently and decided to release the script public to everyone, all the Shift fans and everything. Like anyone can go on their website and watch it and listen to the script in a live audio form or read it. Maybe the moderator can put that in our live chat. But all of these people here have read the script. So I'd like to ask them, what was your reaction? Like, first of all, we'll not go into spoiler territory, but without doing that, going in spoiler territory, what was your overall reaction? What would you like to tell us? I'm going to start with Cara.
I'll go just because I shared from the very beginning, and it was hard for people to understand where it was going after watching the short film. And that changed everything after reading the script, because, and this is something I've been thinking about lately, because as we've been putting it out there on campaigns, you know, there are some people who don't understand. They haven't read the script yet, and they will say things like, why would you even make a movie about all this darkness and about Satan and sci-fi? They're just confused about it. And I can see how they'd be a little confused watching the short because they have no idea what's coming. Well, the script, not only is it incredibly exciting, but the spiritual significance of it is so important. And I think that's what a lot of believers haven't, you know, they don't know yet. And I think a lot of them are saying we should just share the gospel. Why did we go into this? Well, first of all, how's that been working for us, right? There's so many people out there that aren't going to pick up the Bible, but they might watch a sci-fi movie. And I think we're all seeing that God's moving through technology and whatever, media to reach people like he has with The Chosen, right? It's huge, the impact of the stories in The Chosen that's making scripture come alive. And I think in this script, what we see is Kevin walking out that door, and he was a believer, but he was a very selfish person, and he wasn't in a good place. And he encountered Satan, but he also encountered God. And when he walked out that door, he was a changed person, and he got to experience, like many of us, what such hardship and struggle. And so often, people just go down into despair, or they think about, try to think positively, but he understood that God was there and in the middle of his suffering. And we got to watch Kevin grow in faith and strength. We saw that Satan was not in control of his mind or his actions. And we saw him just looking to God, and in so many different ways throughout the script, besides all the excitement and I know other people will be better about talking about that, but you see him knowing in his heart that God is there with him, even when circumstances don't change. And is that not a story that we need the world to see? How many movies out there now tell us that story, giving us hope that even though things are hard, God is there, and we experience it instead of somebody preaching to us. We experience it by watching Kevin go through all this, and I think that's the most important part. Why this movie needs to get out there. And the script, if you read the script, you know it. It's amazing.
And Orlando.
Yes.
Have you been asleep this whole time?
I've been watching comments and making notes. Okay, so what do you want to hear from me?
Well, basically, you've read the script. We were wondering if you could kind of give your reaction to the script, since you're a producer on it, how it impacted you, and without going into spoiler territory for those people who don't or want to wait until the film's out.
For sure. So for me coming across the Shift, the feature film the first time, Brock had sent it to me. I think your first draft or second draft. You probably sent me your third or fourth, because I know you weren't going to show anybody at the first draft.
It was early, but it wasn't the first.
So I got a pretty early take on it, and even just from the outset. And I know we did some notes and things like that, but just from the outset, like it was everything that I hoped it would be. Like just knowing the short film, knowing Brock's heart, knowing what he was trying to do with the feature, it was everything that I hoped it would be in terms of what he was setting out to do and what I have been looking for in faith-based cinema. One of the things that I think we don't really talk about much is the fact that at the end of the day, people like Brock and myself, like we're filmmakers. We are visual storytellers. And yes, this is a good faith-based story and a potential witnessing tool, and it'll get people in the seats that normally wouldn't be able to see it, wouldn't want to watch a Christian film. But at the end of the day, we're going to tell a story, some kind of story. And for me, I had longed for the day where someone would be bold enough to make a good movie, period, that happened to have a strong moral, faith-based sense about it. I would have been perfectly fine if it had none of the moral and spiritual aspect to it. It was just a really good sci-fi film, because I like good movies and I want to be part of making good movies. It just, the cherry on the top is the fact that it's both, and it could be both without compromising either facet. It could be both good cinema and good faith storytelling. So yeah, that's my take on it. I'm just really excited for what it will be, because it really is a great blending of both the cinema and the faith.
Okay, so Adira.
Yeah, I mean, Brock and I talked a little bit about this on the podcast, but the thing that, and hadn't read the script when we first talked, but having read it now.
See, I didn't think you had back then.
Yeah, no. The thing that for me is most striking about it is the way that it exposes the tactics of the enemy. Because I think we see in a lot of faith-based movies, like talking about God and how God operates, and it's kind of like a feel-good story. And this, of course, like it is in a sense a feel-good story. I think that the matching of the vignettes and the opening and in the closing, for me, that was like it's like wrapped up in a very beautiful but like realistic bow. But it's not feel good in a fluffy way. Like it's really talking about the kingdom of darkness and how it operates. And I think that a lot of it resonates with me because I'm trying to do something similar. Like when I talk about testimonies, it's like we're talking about what Satan does. And one of my favorite parts of the script is when Satan is trying to convince Kevin to basically pledge allegiance to him. I hope this is not a spoiler.
I don't think so. Isn't that in the diner scene?
Yeah,
I think that's in the diner.
It's in the short film.
I think that's already in the short film.
Yeah, short film's totally fair game.
Okay, fair. And Kevin is like having this moral crisis where he's like, I don't want to pledge allegiance to you. I'm not that kind of person. And Satan says, well, look at what you've already done. Look at what you already did to this waitress. And like that condemnation is very real. That's what we experience as believers often when you're trying to repent or you're trying to turn to the Lord. And Satan's like, well, look how far gone you already are. And that was just super relatable and like subtle. And that I think that like, you know, maybe someone who's a new believer or even a non-believer can recognize that sort of feeling, that sort of experience of I want to choose the morally sound path, but look at how far I've gone. So I think there's a lot of value in that part of the story and just showing plainly how Satan operates. It's just really, really great. So that was like my first takeaway, but then also, and this is, I think, really timely. I don't know if you guys are seeing the news right now, but George Floyd, the verdict just came out. Like,
I did see
as
that.
we had a conversation, and he was found guilty, Chauvin, on all counts. And when I was reading the script, I was just thinking a lot about the Black Lives Matter movement, especially in the diner scene again. So not a spoiler, when Satan is saying like two people see the same car crash, they see the same accident happen and their accounts differ wildly. Like, why is that? And then Satan says, because they're seeing different accidents. And you see that Satan and like his demons do in reality create confusion through misunderstanding and conflicting realities, where it's like, I really am seeing something different than what you're seeing, and I can't make you see things the way that I see them. And it's like, where do you really go from here? And I feel like that's kind of where the conversation is when it comes to racism in America. It's like, I can't force people to see things from my perspective and vice versa. And I feel like this film has some answers, and there's value in that too.
That's fascinating. I hadn't even thought about that angle. But I think what you're saying is so perceptive and so right on, and bringing in something that's very real world and very relevant. For my part, I'm pleased with the verdict, and you know, I think what you're saying is right. I think especially when it comes to racism, we have such a different perception based on where we're coming from, based on whatever our perceptions are, and it is very difficult, as we have seen, to convince people that you know, that our perspective is the correct one, because it's just so wildly different. And I do think that confusion, racism, I think you can trace that directly back to Satan. It is a powerful tool in his hands, and we are seeing that used quite a bit right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Barb?
Yeah, I was able to read the script over the last couple days, and I've never read a script before. So like I said before, I'm really new at all of this stuff. So just reading the script was fascinating, and hearing, and I won't give this spoiler, but knowing that it's a modern take on a very popular Bible story. I don't know if that's a spoiler, or if you've discussed that.
We've talked about that in the pitch and stuff. So yeah, that's not a spoiler.
Okay. So a modern take on the story of Job is where we're coming from, and seeing how that plays out is just super interesting. And I love movies, and I love superhero movies. So this is kind of the best of both worlds with the sci-fi. I'm not a huge sci-fi person necessarily, but having the faith-based aspect of it, I love to support Christian movies, and faith-based movies that are good are even better, where you can actually tell people you need to see this movie. So I think that this is going to be one of those movies that people are going to really like, because it has all of the elements, and even it feels like today. There are elements to it that feels real. That feels real today. So I think people are really going to think that it applies to them spiritually and personally, and also it's just a good story.
No, that's cool. I think I would hope that that's what happens. I hope that people can read it and find things that apply to them in that way. I had an experience recently where somebody read it and they got back with me, and we had a conversation about it, and they were like, man, I'm seeing like all this libertarian stuff. Like he found all these moments where it's just very libertarian, and I had to break it to him, like, dude, I'm not a libertarian. That's not what I was doing at all. But he just saw it, and I'm like, cool. If it spoke to you in that way, or you see that, or that's interesting to you, I think that's cool. So I always say that when an artist puts something out into the world, they die essentially, and it's at that point the viewer or the reader takes over, and they decide what it is. And I think if art can do that and be something, this guy seems libertarian and you're seeing superheroes or whatever it is, I actually think that's good. I think that's a good thing.
Who do I pass this ball to?
Tara.
Tara.
After reading the script, my reaction was wow. And out of every book or script or movie that I've read or watched, this was the best, most exciting, fun, even though the story isn't always fun, the best, most exciting, fun ride I've ever been on. And I want it to continue. Let's get this party started.
Yes.
And something I just say.
I was just going to say, Tara wrote out her reaction to the script all in emojis.
Yeah, that's
just
pretty great.
Cracked me up. And I could totally, without any word, like I could track like exactly where she was in the script.
Oh,
yeah. Like, it was so easy to track it. It was pretty great. That was one of my favorite reactions that we've gotten so far.
Right. We can even show that earlier.
And I legit took it from the script, writing the script, reading the script. I would, put my reaction just down as I was reading it. And then I thought, oh, that's a good way. And so I literally just pulled my writing or my emojis off the script.
Oh, that's awesome.
Be sure you put that away until we get into spoiler territory.
Oh, you can see it right here.
Some people have very good eyes and they can read really fast when. Yeah. So anyway, something that came to me while Barb was talking is you mentioned Job, similar this is to the story of Job. And something I remembered, this might be going into spoiler territory, but that story is mentioned in the script.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It actually plays a pretty significant part. think the way Brock did it was well done. Wrote it in there, and that's just my 2 cents. So, Roxy.
Yeah. Of course, as soon as Brock said you can read the script, I'm a weirdo, but I love reading scripts anyways. So I read quite a few scripts a lot, and to be able to read a feature is truly a treat. So yeah, kudos to you, Brock, for having the courage to do it and the faith. And it's not just you. You realize this work is not just you. It's about what God has given you. So thank you for your faith in that and in him. The first time I read it, of course, I just read it, just coming at it purely from my reading eyes. And then, of course, knowing what the short was. So, of course, the second time I dumped it into Studio Binder. I'm starting to get into work mode. So I dumped it in a Studio Binder. And when I did that, I started tagging every one of the elements. And like Tara said, she highlighted everything. And so it does the same thing. And as I'm reading it, it pulls things out that you didn't realize before, because I think a lot of times we read something and we're so used to seeing words, our eyes just go to the next word. But when you have to stop and physically read each word and understand if it's a noun or a verb or an element or something like that, it brings a whole new light to what it is. And when I did that, it gave a different light to each of it. And so what I can say is I've watched so many trailers and so many shorts and then watched the feature and was so disappointed. It was like I could have just watched the trailer and never spent my money or time. But you carry the same energy and the same determination and the same emphasis from page 1 to the end of scene. I'm not going to say the end scene number so nobody knows, but to the end, you didn't disappoint. It was a roller coaster ride. And I've read your book. You are a gifted writer. You are a screenwriter as well as an author. And so I see your humanity. I see your vulnerability. I see the God you serve. I see the dork, because, the nerd, I recognize that within somebody else. So, yeah, I'm honored to know you and be a part of this. And yeah, I see your pain. I recognize pain. So many of us have been through so much pain, and you recognize pain, but you also recognize when you let that vulnerability be touched by the healing balm of Gilead, and to come out on the other side and have a testimony. So thank you for your testimony. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Well said.
So well said.
Colby, I know you've been waiting down there at the bottom corner of the screen, waiting to talk because you're just about to explode. But remember, no spoilers until later.
We'll work on it. Wish me luck. So one thing I made sure to do, there was a day it was going to be a really long road trip. So first thing I did was turn on the audio version of the script. It was just a long highway for the next, 4 hours. So it was me and the script. And it's really, I was just really able to just focus in and tune in to this story and whatnot. And being as a filmmaker myself, I really was amazed, not only, of course, on the story of it, but also on the technical side of how everything was playing out with basically what would be the film. So the first thing that I really loved is how visual the story is. Sometimes with a lot of stories, sometimes like the concept ends up being kind of spoken throughout, where like it's almost like the dialogue seems to lead the story and whatnot. But with the Shift, it's a lot of visual, a lot of action. There's a lot of, you're seeing something go on. And like, for example, with the diner scene, whenever there's like conversations, those conversations are almost in a sense following along with the action. because like you can see visually that there's this, you know, this tension right here. One person is tempting the other and he's fighting back, and his dialogue just follows along with it. And a lot of the story does exactly that, which, you know, with the art of film, the more you see, you know, there's just something to it. And then the other thing is with the story is, you know, there's always, the more layers there are to a story, that's what makes it fascinating, engaging. And there's like, sometimes they're like good stories. It's like kind of a simple, you know, beginning, middle, end. And it falls along within that certain point leading up to like the final part of the story. What's really interesting about this one is how there's like even like little mini subplots and mini stories within it, without going into detail about exactly what. It's like you have the overarching story of kind of like, I guess you could say, the overview of what Kevin gets into, but then within it there's, you know, this situation that happens, and then this situation, and there's like certain people you meet that like, it's almost like each part could be diced up as its own story in a sense, kind of like its own chapter. And kind of those pieces together kind of adds, it adds so much more of like an environment. It adds so much more flavor to the story, and it just makes it stand out even more, because it all just comes together. It kind of just falls along and adds into what Kevin really kind of like, it really, because it helps you like really kind of think about it more as you get towards like the end of it. And then, of course, the third thing is I have to mention story, of course, with the allegory side of it. One of my favorite books is Screw Tape Letters by C.S. Lewis, because I really love, there's so many books about, you know, kind of like the, you know, the lessons I kind of think about like parables of, you know, how to follow along in faith and whatnot. And in how Screw Tape Letters, it's a very unique perspective. It's almost like the counter perspective, where it's like some stories are, you know, this is, you know, what the light looks like. The Screw Tape was, this is what darkness looks like, and really helped you understand that perspective to, of course, guide you with the light. And for me, I'm yet to really know any movies before The Shift that really focus on that counter perspective. You know, it's like Narnia was the best example of that, you know, light focus allegory. I love like this Shift really focuses on that counter perspective of showing that dark side in a way that shows you how, coming from this, you can get to light. And it's an approach that I've never seen done for with a film. So I'm really excited that The Shift really brought this type of, you know, perspective, and I'm really amazed at how well it does it. So yeah,
it's awesome. I think what's interesting is, and what I'm very grateful for, because I was really scared to put this script out into the world. It's not what you do.
I wasn't excited about that.
Yeah, I know Orlando was really nervous about it. I was nervous about it. It wasn't my idea. The idea came from Angel Studios, and I had a real long pause, you know, when they told me, and I was like, guys, what are you talking about? Like, nobody does that. Like that's just crazy. Right. And I mean, I had all kinds of fears. I mean, my fear, one of the biggest ones, of course, is that people are going to read it and they're going to be like, what the crud is this noise? You know, because it's not the film. The film is going to be what I direct. You know, we're all talking like it's done. It's not done. It's not even half done. But the script gives you a really good idea of what it's going to be. But then, of course, the other fear is that, you know, is that people aren't gonna get it, that they are, and worse than that, that maybe the enthusiasm will go down. You know, that they'll read it and they'll be like, well, we've experienced that. Don't really need to see the movie now. Kind of got it all. Right. You know, reading the script. I mean, that was a giant fear for me, is that it would just deflate everyone's enthusiasm. Because as a storyteller, what's the most powerful thing you have? One of the most powerful tools in your kit is surprise. And here we were going to put something out in the world and we basically eliminate the element of surprise. You just take it and remove it off the table. And it's like, oh my gosh, that's one of my biggest tools. How can you take that off the table? But what I'm hearing here and what I've heard from so many people is that it's actually the opposite. You guys just seem more excited to see the film now, because you want to see how it plays out, which is cool, which is really great and really reassuring. And thank goodness it went that way and not the way that we feared it would go.
Well, it's like reading a book where you're anticipating this book has to be made into a movie because you can't picture everything in the book, or you have some of the book will just bring to life what you've read, and I think that's what this will be. Even if people, those that have read the script, you want to see it because the script doesn't show it all. Obviously, you can't. Like you said before, you can't show it all in the script. So definitely need to see it brought to the screen.
This is going to be the longest wait ever.
It is, and that's the bad part. Is that now it's just you all gotta wait. It's gonna take a while. It's gonna take a long while.
The anticipation is up. It'll be worth the wait, but worth the wait.
So exciting to see the team that is building around this and to know the level of, the quality of filmmaking that's coming, and with Brock's imagination and Orlando's, they're incredible. And on the screen, even reading the script. So cannot wait for that premiere in the theater.
Looks like Cara got a little garbled there, but I think I got the gist of it.
You're muted,
Noah. Noah, you're muted.
Yeah, no, we can't hear you.
Pulling a Brock.
Yep, I'm not alone.
It's back. Frozen?
There we go.
Is it frozen?
Looks like you're not the only one, Brock.
Nope.
My internet froze.
You're a verb now, Brock. You brocked it.
Yeah, great.
I don't know what you didn't hear. I just said we can't. Our imagination.
Cara, I think your internet is dragging you.
Yeah, you're frozen.
While we're waiting for that, possibly, one of the reasons we're here is also to help wrap up or assist with funding for this movie. And I did look online a minute ago, and there's been some positivity. So I was encouraged about that.
Nice.
Yeah, we're up above 430,000. I'm not sure exactly where we're at, but we're in a good spot right now.
Yeah.
I see all the comments, but whatever. But something I like that you were saying, Colby, is that there are so many movies, faith-based and non-faith-based, that just like tell you everything. Like everything is spoken out to you. So, there's nothing really for you there to explore in your own mind. Like, I wonder what that means. And the shift, like, it's not just loaded with dialogue. There's so much there that you have to explore and everything. And that's something I really like about it. And I'm probably going to talk more about my reaction, like, after we get into spoiler territory, because I just don't know how to without
yeah, it's hard. I'll tell you what though, I sure have been hearing from the people who prefer to have things spelled out lately. We have I see all the comments and I see all the things that people say, and I like to say, and I think it's true, that 95% of the reaction we get to the shift is positive, but that 5%, they're very vocal, and they don't like mystery, and they don't like things to be confusing, and they don't like to not have everything wrap up in a bow, and they don't like Jesus to not come down and plant his feet and say, "You're out of here," and then give everybody a basket of golden flowers or whatever they think is supposed to happen. But I don't know where that image came from.
I might watch that movie.
Yeah, that would be interesting actually. But yeah, I mean, look, the film is intended to speak to the reality of our experience here, is what I like to say. And the reality of our experience here is that Satan is loud and obnoxious, and God is quiet and still.
Mhm.
And that's what the film is about. And I think sometimes faith movies can err on the side of making God loud and God even obnoxious. And I think that can be a turnoff to people, and it's a turnoff to me. And so I didn't want to make a movie like that. I want to make a movie that shows how I believe God actually operates within our lives, within a world that's very real. And I say that, and I'm making a science fiction movie, but as Noah just said, that's the allegory of the whole thing. And look, and if there are people out there for whom they're just like, nope, I don't like that. I want it to be exactly the way, these other films do it. And I say, great, go watch those other films. I don't have a problem with that.
And there are so many people who say, oh, the film is unbiblical.
Yes, we get that a lot.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, it is unbiblical.
Just like The Chosen.
Yeah, just like The Chosen.
A copy like off the Bible. We're not like trying to replace that. We shouldn't do that in film.
No.
But it is to direct you towards that. It's for entertainment value that can direct you towards the scriptures. So
yeah.
And
it's not
look, it's not. And look, I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't feel led by God to do so. This isn't me saying, oh, I'm going to impose the way I want to tell stories on God. This is, for me personally, my personal experience with the shift is following inspiration. That's what I'm doing. That's what I truly believe I have been doing the entire time. Because honestly, there is absolutely no reason that any of you should know about this movie. There just isn't. This movie should not exist. We should not be raising money. We should not be having success doing that. I should not have Dallas Jenkins on my side. I should not have Dan and Matt doing the music. None of this should be real. But it is, because from the very beginning, I've done my best to follow the inspiration that I've been given. And to me, that just means that from the beginning, this is what God had in store for me. And what he has in store for this film is for it to exist. And that's the reality that I live in. And I'm grateful for that. I'm so grateful. I've been searching my whole life trying to figure out what in the world I'm supposed to do with it. And now I feel like I know what I'm supposed to do. And so for anybody who doesn't like that or doesn't agree with me, I say that's totally fine. I can't possibly make something that pleases everyone, and that's okay. But I know for me personally, yes, this story is not in the Bible, but that does not make it devoid of the gospel.
Yeah. And if you want, Brock, I'll just take this whole live stream and edit it to where you said this movie should not be made.
Yes. Great. Glad I was able to give that to you.
The end.
And to all those people who are, think otherwise about, who think that this movie is like, oh, it's not unbiblical and everything like that, have all these like things to say about it that are just, are not important. This is what I have to say to them.
Get used to it.
Yeah.
There you go.
You know what else? What Roxy coined, the divine chess game. I love that. If they could see the divine chess game that's been going on from the beginning with Brock's life, and then what we've been watching, it's pretty obvious he's in favor.
Yeah.
And such a huge following, right? 10,000 people on board, 1,024 investors.
As of this minute.
Yeah. And to be able to use, the same technology as Mandalorian, it's huge stuff.
It's another big blessing we've received recently. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for free. What independent film gets free latest, visual effects tech? That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen unless you've got some kind of dispensation, I believe, from on high.
A faith-based film,
right? And a faith-based.
On top of that,
can you speak about that a little bit, Brock, for those that haven't seen?
Yeah, so that have no idea. Yeah, so the Star Wars TV show, The Mandalorian, If you watch that show, a number of scenes take place in the outdoors. But what you might not realize is that basically the entire show was shot indoors. And that's because they used a special technology utilizing high-resolution LED screens that essentially surround the actors on a stage and provide them with a digital 3D rendered environment that is indistinguishable from real life, but can actually be manipulated digitally like you would with a video game. So you can, for example, you want the scene to take place during a sunset, great. You flick a button and the scene changes from nighttime to sunset, and it's just like that. It's that quick. You want this rock to be over there, great. You pick up the rock and you move it over there. And then because you're surrounding the actors with these LED screens, you're essentially getting the lighting happening around them in real time, which is different from like a green screen. A green screen, you're having to set up lights and do a lot of different things to make it look right, and then kind of just crossing your fingers and hoping that you can match the lighting with the scenes that you put in later on to replace with the green screens. So
you got to fight the green spill.
Right, you got to fight the green spill from the green itself, and there's a lot of things that go along with that. So what we have, so this is a brand new technology, first used on The Mandalorian. It's starting to be used more and more, but there is a man by the name of Tom Armbruster down in LA, and he has his own visual effects house. He's had it for 20 years, and he's just installed this technology, and he's going to have an even bigger installation soon. But he saw the short, and he loved it, and so we had a conversation, and he said, "Look, I believe in what you're doing. Come down and come use this for free. You can use this tech for free." And if you've read the feature film script, you might be able to guess that there are some sequences that if we have access to that technology, it's going to be 100 times easier to accomplish those sequences than if we didn't. So we're very, very excited about that. And we see that as a huge blessing directly from God, because there's no other way that would happen.
And can I say, is this a spoiler? But those are going to be great for those shifting scenes.
It's a little bit of a spoiler, but yeah, there's some shifting that goes on, and that technology will come in handy for that.
Well, I mean, it's the shift. Of course, there's some shifting.
Of course, there's some shifting. Yeah.
Yeah.
To say more than that would be spoiler.
Yeah, it just makes it easier in that you can do that digitally. Well, it's technically both. It's practically digitally simultaneously, as opposed to in-camera optics where you have to go in two different locations and try to match your shot and do what we call a match cut.
Right.
Literally can, pop from one place to another on screen instantaneously while working it. That's just, it's crazy. It literally saves you a day of production.
Oh, it's going to save us a week of production.
Well, I mean, per those moments, you don't have to go to two different locations.
Yeah.
For each time you want to do that kind of effect, it saves you a day.
Well, yeah, because our original plan
is a lot of money.
So without giving away too many spoilers, there is a sequence in which there's a lot of shifting that kind of happens where we have a character who's shifting from world to world. And, luckily we live in California, and in California, basically any part of the world you can think of, except for I think a jungle, you can find in California. And so our original plan was to take a week in a van and just drive around California and do our best to shoot a bunch of match cuts and then marry them all. It was going to be really, really difficult and expensive and take a week to go to the snow and then the mountains and then the beach and then, all these different places. And instead now we can do it in an afternoon.
Yep.
So
crazy.
And,
yeah, it's nuts.
So we're still in the question of giving reactions to the script without spoilers. So the only one who hasn't answered that question yet is Brock. He wrote the script. What is his reaction to his creation?
My reaction
he hates
to the
it.
script?
He thinks it's awful.
I'll say this. I'm still working on it. It's not right yet. What you guys read, I thought was really good, and I still think it's really good. But I'm still working on it. There's a change I made just last night to the ending, to the big climax. I realized that there was something I could do to make it even more impactful, and so I made that change.
Does that get updated to the website?
No. That's just for me. Until I'm shooting the movie, changing the script is fair game. So what you guys have is a version, and I think you have a very strong version. But what we're going to put on screen is going to be better than that.
So I think I'd like to go ahead and get into spoiler territory.
Let's go.
Brock.
Okay. Let's throw up a warning here. Here we go. The warning is up. You want to do a countdown to release the spoilers, Noah?
It's now up?
Yes, if you don't want to know, tune out.
Yeah, I'm seeing it. 2, 3, 2, 1. We are now in spoiler territory.
Everybody
so
dies. Just kidding.
For all of those people who want to wait until the feature film is out to know certain things, you can jump off, or if you're just having a sudden change of mind and want to hear a few, maybe we're just going to sit down here and read the whole script.
Probably not that. That would take 3 hours. I know because I did it.
Yeah, we can all play a different character. But yeah,
Mhm.
I am going to just, ask all of you. I'll start with Adira. What was your reaction to the script? Like, what was something specifically in the script that you would like to talk about that stuck out to you, that you liked how it was done, that just touched you? And that something that's on your heart that you would like to share us today.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be in the form of a question, if that's okay for Brock.
Sure.
I have one question that's kind of a joke, but not really. I'm kind of serious. I want to know why on the one hand steak and eggs, and why he makes her eat. But then I also want to know with the ending, and I'm just gonna say it so it's kind of a happy ending. And I wonder, like, with the vignettes, that's the thing I'm just keep being stuck on, is like the final closing scenes as he's like seeing his wife again, and it's like his wife as a nurse. She doesn't really know who he is, but they're like looking at each other, and they're just clear. Like, he obviously knows who she is, and she's kind of like, there's something I really like about you, but I can't place it. And then like the final vignettes, the language is like everything's bathed in light. There's like all the sunlight, like he holds his kid up to the sun. And like in the beginning, you see that also. But to me, the opening vignettes, it was like the light was like praise from mankind. It was like they have praise of man. Like the language is like the patrons applaud, and then it's like a chorus of cheers as he's going through these life moments. Like he has a child, it's like there's cheering. He goes through all these milestone events, and it's like man is praising him. Versus in the end, it seems like there's also this celebration, but it's like a pure thing. And I was wondering if that's intentional, and like what the meaning of that language is between the first and the closing vignettes. So I first want to hear about the eggs, the steak, and the eggs.
Yeah, what was the first question? It was
why
steak and eggs. Okay, so so you're the second person to ask me that, and the first time somebody asked me that, I made up a response because I didn't have a good answer, and I told her I did, because he orders steak, eggs, and a tall glass of milk. That's what Satan orders, and the only reason he orders that is because that's what felt right. Sometimes when you're telling a story, you don't know why you're writing a thing. I find that to be true constantly, where I'm putting something in and I'm like, I don't really know what this means or why this, but it feels right. And when I have a moment like that as a storyteller, then I know it is right. And I'll figure out why it is later. So I pay very close. To me, writing is very much an exercise in listening to the Spirit. I can't tell you how many times I've been writing, and I'm writing something, and I'm like, oh, this is really cool. This is really cool. And then I get that nudge from the Spirit that says, no, that's not right. You need to go back. You need to delete that. You need to start over. But then the opposite is true also, where I'm coming up on something and it's like, just write this. And so I write it. And so the steak, eggs, and a tall glass of milk was like, that's just the weirdest. Like, what does the devil eat? That was the question. And that's what I came up with. And so when this person asked me, why does he eat those things? I started thinking about it, and I came up with an answer. And I'm telling you all that backstory because what I'm about to say, I am not saying that I had in mind when I wrote it, because I didn't. And maybe this is just a really pretentious answer to the question, but it's what makes sense to me now, and so it's what in my mind, this is what I think of. So he orders steak because steak is dead, because it's dead meat. And he orders eggs because eggs represent life. Eggs represent life in embryo, and he orders milk because milk is white and pure. And so you're essentially looking at everything that Satan wants to have control over that only God does. He wants to control our purity, he wants to control life, and he wants to control death. And so he orders steak, eggs, and a tall glass of milk. Very, very pretentious answer, but it was what I came up with when I was pushed.
Yeah, I think it's because they were in a cafe and that's what they serve. So,
and that's what they serve, and there's that too. Yeah.
Well,
so,
and here's the deal. I mean, for me, it could have been anything. It sure you can have a deeper meaning for
it. Ultimately, doesn't matter.
Right, but what I was going to get to is really at the end of the day, what it is it's the anticipation. Everybody in that cafe, especially Tina, knows what's coming next, and this kind of toying with the meat. We have these long shots of it being cut, and this whole setup, the forceful nature of subjecting her to sit down and be fed this thing, that it's very domineering. It's very twisted in and of itself. The act of it, it's visually, it's very compelling. The fact that everybody wants to know, like, what's the significance of it, it shows you that's how visually surreal and potent those moments are. And I think just at the end of the day, it's exerting authority, and it's just yet slow. He's in no rush to do what he knows he's going to do, and he's just toying with everybody, and we all got to wait until he does his evil thing. I mean, it could have been pancakes and it would have still had that same viscera. It's just the controlling nature of it.
Yep.
Well,
And
one thing I was gonna say, oh sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay, go for it.
Yeah, well, one thing, this kind of just popped my mind, because you were talking about kind of like the representation, probably like steak being like death, eggs being life, and milk being purity and all that. It just now occurred to me that that was it when Satan had Tina sit down, and then he was teasing her to eat the steak and all that, with the concept of that steak probably representing death, kind of almost that kind of idea that Satan kind of teases kind of like almost like the threat of death and whatnot, and throughout like the whole story, it's in a sense it's like that kind of one scenario kind of almost in a sense summarizes like the overall kind of dystopia. It's kind of like that threat of death kind of environment where it's like everything's dark and it's like almost like a survival. It's like you're just fighting for life or else, because everything's all in the dumps. And then it's just really interesting. I just thought about that. Just kind of like that was almost in a sense kind of like a teaser, almost kind of like setting in stone of what the rest of the story, or at least kind of the environment that the story would take place be like.
Yeah, you'll notice he never eats the eggs and he never drinks the milk.
Exactly, that too, yeah.
Yeah, and something I was just gonna say, Brock, I like how you just made the restaurant the cafeteria. Like, you didn't go with a certain brand. Like, oh, guess what, everybody? Satan eats at McDonald's.
Well, I can't afford McDonald's, so
that was over.
I mean, actually, I can afford McDonald's, but I mean, using McDonald's, I'm sure that costs money.
You might get sued.
But also, I wouldn't want. Yeah, you might get sued. Yeah, I don't want to get sued.
Yeah. Or get a sponsor.
Yeah, I doubt they will.
Sponsored by Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
Chick-fil-A might.
Right.
Yeah, I thought only Christians went to Chick-fil-A.
No, everybody likes that chicken.
Good chicken sandwiches goes to Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, I guarantee you, it doesn't matter when it tastes that good.
But that's a great thing you brought up. It's not a Christian sandwich. It's the sandwich, and it's really good. right?
Mhm.
They happen to have own and a philosophy that is very faith-based and very morally ethical. That's what The Shift is.
Mhm.
It is a good film. It's a good film that happens to have a writer-director who is strong in faith and is injecting morals and ethical principles and faith into what he does, into his ingredients. That's what it is. And I don't know, we got to start using that more often, because that's really what it is.
Yeah.
It's just like a chicken sandwich and a non-Christian chicken sandwich. Film is film, and it's what you infuse into it that ultimately makes it,
Right.
good or bad.
Yep.
So
I'm gonna
I
drop
was
my
just going
pen.
to say, Adira private messaged me on this group chat and letting me know that she is going to have to jump. She has a meeting coming up, so if we could I
Hi,
guess we'll
Adira.
just
Thank you for coming.
Bye, guys. Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much
being
for
here.
having me. I will continue to share this stuff on my channels.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
for
Bye.
joining
Appreciate your
us.
help.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening, Adira. It was great to have you on.
Thanks, Noah. Bye.
Bye.
Our perfect grid is broken.
Oh no.
Okay,
I
so
know, it's hurting my OCD.
who do I ask next? Roxy.
There we go.
Yeah, I called it it looked like the Brady Bunch, so I was calling us all the Brock Bunch earlier. So Adira graduated, went to college. No. So I won't be long. I know our time is running out, but one thing I'd like to touch on, of course it is a spoiler alert, is when Kevin is in the hotel.
Mhm.
Okay, so we are watching a screen. Kevin is looking into a TV screen, watching the news. The TV screen has a screen up with a picture on with a multiplex, and they're describing it.
Oh,
And then they
right.
talk about sound. Yeah. So to me, that's multiple layers. So to me, that's a wink to Christopher Nolan's Inception.
Hmm.
So
Yep.
yeah, I loved it. Anything Christopher Nolan, Tenet, anything like that.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, Orlando was great. Yeah. So let all the nerds please stand up. So then when Kevin was writing the Bible from memory, I mean, that took me straight to the book of Eli.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Denzel Washington. So yeah, where I see that as far as in other films is where you have a really strong writer director who is comfortable in who he is. He's not insecure to take backs at other people that they admire. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed that. You'll really get my attention when you start infusing other people's work in it, because we're multi-layered. So
Totally.
kudos to that. So yeah, so
Totally.
thank you. I want to say thank you for that. So
I don't know if I should be giving my opinion of how I thought something should be done in the script on here.
But you're going to.
But you're going to anyway, because you've teed it up. So now you got to do it.
Something actually, I like that, when he was just remembering Bible verses. Something that I thought would be interesting is what if, since it was just memory, what if there was a little if he didn't get them perfect, with his memory, if there was one word that was a little bit different, from. But then
So
again, you'll have.
I'll tell you that's one of the changes that I'm making right now. I have found that people misunderstand, and some people have read it and thought that he has the Bible memorized, like in the book of Eli. But that's not what I'm trying to do. And so I'm actually going back and I'm changing all of those little, where he's typing on a page to make it clear that the words he's using are his own words, and that he doesn't have this. He does say at one point, look, it's not word for word, it's just what I remember. But I think I can make it more clear that it really is just kind of a pastiche of what he can think in his head. I mean, any of us, if we were asked to write down the scriptures, the stories in the scriptures, I can write a version of Noah's Ark. I can write a version of Job. It's not going to be even close to the full thing, but I can write a version of it. That's what I was trying to communicate. But I've realized that I didn't quite get there. So we're going to make that a lot more clear in the next draft.
Yeah, and I mean, Kevin doesn't exactly seem like the kind of person who'd have the word for word the Bible verse.
No, not at all. Not at all. Nobody does. Nobody does. Not even Denzel has it memorized.
Okay, so I'm gonna go to Tara because Tara is just going to give us like her whole reaction through emojis.
I must admit, I don't know that I've ever been so upset and thrilled with a writer during one reading of the script. Like I was
That's
mad
perfect.
at Brock, like, why is this happening? And then something else would happen, and I'd be like, all right, go Brock. And so obviously this is spoiler time, but when Tina was left at the psych ward, I'm like, Brock, couldn't you have just let him like hold her hand and she gets shifted back too? So I was grumpy then, and then that gets resolved and I'm a little happier again. And then a loved one, you think, it's messy. Ugh. So what a ride. No, I think you did start off with saying, some of your favorite reactions, the shift part. And
yeah,
I'm excited to see how that will translate onto the screen. That's just going to be fun.
Me too.
Yeah, and I thought, the way Brock showed, Tina in the script after she had been shifted and spent like, what, was it 5 years in an asylum?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we don't know that she was there the whole time, but she could have gone through something that was even harder. We don't know. Well, not harder, but many hard things that, in between that time when she got
Yeah,
killed.
there's a lot you don't know. That's true.
But I think you showed, a good example of a person who is, had mental issues. And it got, there are parts that it got a little bit dark. But that's what she was feeling.
Yeah, I think the Tina sequence is one that I've seen people point out as being, oh wow, it got really dark right there. But that's important. That serves a purpose.
And then when you think she's not going to be rescued, you're like, come on.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a common thing for people who watch the short and have a hard time with it. They always come back to Tina. Like, why isn't Tina okay? Why isn't she rescued? Why doesn't, why that? They want to see what happens to Tina.
Because the
story's not done. But so it was really important for me in writing the feature script to make sure that, not just because of them, just because for me personally, I knew that Tina was something in one way or another that needed to be addressed and resolved one way or another. Tina has to be part of that story and part of what Kevin is going through, and he needs to acknowledge her. And there's a moment in the middle of the script where I'm like being careful. I don't know why I'm being careful. We're in spoilers, but Kevin has 2 dreams in the script, and those dreams are both intended to let you know what's on his mind and what he's thinking about. And Tina shows up in one of those dreams, and that's why, because it is something that he hasn't let go of, that he did this to this person, and that still haunts him. So it has to be addressed.
So, we got fan questions. The moderator, well, I just stopped calling her the moderator because it's Jenna, my sister. I should.
Hey, Jenna.
Hey, Jenna.
Is letting me know about some fan questions. Gosh, I don't know how to say this guy's name. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. But Vaughn Samuels asked, do you expect the casting to go quickly, or will it likely take a while to nail down the ideal actors for each role?
That's a really good question, and one I just don't have an answer for. We need to get to a certain level of budget before we can go out to actors. We don't need the whole thing, but we do need a significant portion. in order to then go to actors and make real offers. That's kind of a lot of what's happening right now, is that we're trying to get to that point. And once we are able to get to that point and we were able to secure those actors, in particular, there's two actors, or two characters rather, that once we secure actors for those characters, that will essentially kick everything else into gear. Our scheduling and in particular, of course, our casting. We'll cast from there with them at the top, and then going down from there. So I just don't know. It really depends on who that is and how quickly we're able to make those deals, and then what their schedules are, and when, as far as when we're able to shoot. Putting a movie together is such a logistical nightmare. It really, there's so many different pieces. Yeah, it's a lot of scaffolding, and right here at the top we're placing these two parts, and as soon as those are cast, then we can build all the scaffolding below them. Or maybe it's the reverse of that. Maybe they're the foundation, and then we build. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But yeah. So I just don't know. I know what the order is. I know what the order of operations here is, but I don't know what the timing is going to be.
Yeah. One thing I was going to say, maybe I shouldn't say this, but if Justin Overlander is watching, there is a role that I actually pictured him the whole time playing in the script.
Oh, I'm curious. What role? Which role?
Funny, I forgot the name of the. Oh, I think I know. Ramirez.
Ah.
The guy who works like a viewer.
Yeah, I can see that.
Justin.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
Now Justin has worldwide pressure on him to play that live.
Yeah, well, like I like to say, because I get a lot of actors reaching out to me. Seems like about every day, and my line is always the same: is we're just not there yet. I just don't know, because even if I were to want Justin for that part, I really wouldn't be able to make that decision until I know who's playing the other parts, because there's really an alchemy that needs to happen within the cast. They need to complement each other. And so while somebody might be really great for the part, but if I've got this person as Kevin, then all of a sudden they're not great for Ramirez, because they're not going to play as well off of this actor. And that's a visual thing. That's an acting style thing. There's a lot of things that go into that. So that's why I say we're starting with these two characters, and then we go down from there, because they're going to set the tone for what that ensemble needs to look like.
Yeah. And if Aaron Heasley is watching, Brock still has no idea whether he's casting Jennifer Garner as Molly.
No, I don't.
But so it's funny. Something I thought of today was, if you cast Jennifer Garner as Molly, what's Kevin and Molly's last name?
Yeah, I know. Coincidence, right?
Garner.
That's true. Yeah, it'd be easy. Easy for her. You never know.
So, getting back to everything. Tara.
Okay. Well, when we start we watch the short film, we start with a really grumpy guy having a bad day and not too likable. And several people have said that they just didn't like the guy. And I thought it was so interesting reading the script that it goes back to a really bad day that he's having, and when he meets Molly, his future wife. And that whole scene is so interesting, the way they meet in a bar. They have this sassy, smart conversation, and she starts kind of boldly talking about how a life would look like, the milestones of a relationship, going into getting married and having children. And while she's talking, you're seeing the scene play out. Greg, the guy who plays Tina's dad, he said, this is a movie, I'm really from the beginning, you cannot leave to get popcorn because there's so much going on, even in that first scene. It's
Sorry
a
to interrupt.
beautiful, what?
But can I just say one thing? Yeah, with the way she starts talking about the future and everything,
What?
you'd almost think that Molly was shifted from the future.
Oh, that would be a different movie.
Yeah, that would be different.
The Terminator.
That's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
But
It's beautiful
Sorry,
because as
Terminator.
she's going through, she's so honest too. And they're both honest. I like their personalities. And she goes through all the beautiful things and the hard things. And she even comes to that point when she says, what does she say, Brock? She says, well, what happens when the bad or the hard thing, right? What is that line, Brock?
Oh, you're asking me to quote
when they're-
myself? I can't do that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I have the
Well,
script.
she basically said, how are we going to handle it when the really bad thing happens?
When
And
the
he
bad
says, what
thing
do you mean?
happens.
Yeah, when the bad thing happens, what do you mean? And she
Yeah,
says,
right.
well, whenever two people meet and have a relationship, you know, at some point that thing is going to happen. It's going to happen. And do we even want to deal with it? Do we even want to go there? And he says, well, today is the, I mean, they just met. but he says, today is the worst day of my life so far. And I'm sitting here talking to you. And, you know, he likes her. And he realizes that even, I thought that was almost like a parallel, even in that really bad day, something good happened. It was a beautiful little parallel. And then you see what the bad thing is. You get to see it. And it's such an interesting choice of the way you did that scene. I love it. And then you get to know who these people are and why life has kind of hit them hard and why they're struggling. You know?
And everything's parallel in the shift. That's just
everything.
parallel works.
Yeah,
it's true. Well, no, I mean,
Yeah.
basically the whole movie's in that conversation.
Right.
You know, I think if even the weird dialogue about, you know, the heroic serial killer, which I know you like so much, Cara, it's serving a dual purpose. You know, I really wanted to let you know up front what kind of movie you were about to watch. That's really why that's set up that way. And so we're introducing the themes and we're getting it. So I love that you see this, you know, this parallel to what Kevin says at the end, which I honestly had not consciously thought about, that he's really saying within this dark day, I'm seeing some light, and that light is you. That's what he's saying to her. And I hadn't realized that. So that's I you know, but that is what that conversation is designed for. And, you know, as weird as everything she's saying is, you guys all experienced a version of that scene back in September that had all of that stuff cut out of it, you know, where it was just the conversation. And I thought it worked, you know, even without all the flashbacks, because it's word for word the same thing. So she's not clairvoyant. She's just a little quirky and you know, and she's also I think at that point in the script, she's a psychology student. So, you know, she's astute. Her wisdom comes from a place of learning and knowledge. She knows what's going to happen.
I like how when you're showing the flash forwards, after you show, you know, that they've lost their son, that their son's died, you know, you see that in the flash forward when they're talking about they don't know what this bad thing's going to be. And then all of a sudden, you know, you're back at the bar or whatever, and they're talking about, you know, it just turns light into a light moment again. Lighthearted moment.
Yep.
You know, and the thing.
And then we crash into the short film.
Yeah, I really like that sequence, and I think it took a few jumps on the flashbacks, flash forwards before I realized that it was actually a time jump, and it wasn't this that they were flash forwards, that they weren't just arbitrary projections of what they're talking about. But more than that, what I thought was really funny reading through that whole thing, I was like, this conversation sounds really, really authentic and really. This sounds like Brock and Aaron. I think I texted like, so how much of this conversation really happened? Because there's some real things here.
Yeah,
like, there's some real conversations in there.
Yeah,
like I knew it. This is Brock and Aaron.
I have another friend who read it. He had the same reaction. He saw, this sounds like you and Aaron. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty much just me and Aaron. That's all I wrote.
Yeah,
that's how we talk to each other.
I liked what you were saying, Cara, about like how you get to see that, you know, because in the short film, Kevin just seemed like an absolute jerk during that beginning, like a grouch or something. But you really get to see like the hard thing that they both went through, to where before you're just like, kind of feeling for both of them, to where like in sympathy. And I like the way the script, showed you that. And like you're just like, oh, please don't argue, because all you want them to do now is just get back together. And I liked how in the script you just had the news kind of getting louder and louder. Like, that's like, it's not like the volume was getting turned up or something, but it's like in Kevin's mind, the news, which I'm sure that was probably like with shifting, could be an effect from who.
Yeah, no, it's meant to be more abstract than that, for sure. Yeah, it's more just what his experience is, and that's how the short plays out. Yeah,
and I just liked how, because I could like literally start to feel, that news just building and building, and then all of a sudden just turn it off, and then it drops, like everything. And so yeah, gotta give a big thumbs up to you there.
Awesome. So I'll ask you guys this then. We've talked about their beginning. What did you guys think of their scene in the mall? I don't think we even talked about that on the last stream, when they finally come back together. I've never heard it. I don't think anybody's ever reacted to that. I don't know what anybody thinks about that scene.
I think it's going to be a logistical nightmare to shoot, but
how do you mean that?
It's a mall.
Just because it's a mall. I know, but we got a good one. The city's willing to help us out with that, and we can shoot at night when everybody's closed. Yeah. That'll help. But yeah, it's going to be a nightmare. That's true.
If it's like our malls, there's no stores left in the mall right now anyway.
We do have one like that, but we have another mall in town that is hopping. Like it's doing great. So it'll be a good place to shoot if we can get into it.
I liked how, when they're finally back together, you could kind of like understand where both of them were coming from. Like Kevin talks about, like it could have been a shift multiple times. And then she's like, what? To where you could understand what they're both thinking right now. Like, it's like, how do I get her to understand about this whole shift thing without her thinking that I'm a maniac? And then she's thinking, it's like, what is he talking about? And you can just see them. It's like, you're like, oh no, this is a complete disaster.
Yeah. Yeah, he hasn't thought it through. He's been waiting for 5 years, but he still hasn't thought it through. Yeah.
So in this universe, only certain people know about the shift. Is that kind of what some people go through their lives and they don't know about the shift?
Well, yeah, I mean, the basic idea is that the only people who really know what's up would be the people on the world where the diner is, where Kevin spends most of the movie. They know about shifting and things because their entire world is designed to support what Satan does with Kevin. But everywhere else, the world we live in, we don't know about that. That's kind of what was the spark of the whole idea, was just this idea. And it's funny because Satan says it right in the diner, what kind of the root inspiration for even thinking about shifting and all of this was, which is basically, okay, I accept that Satan tempts us, but how does he do that? What are the mechanics of that? Because I don't believe that Satan can read my mind. I don't believe that he can get into my thoughts in that way. I don't think he has that power. So how does he do it? Does he create situations in which I am tempted to do the wrong thing? I think he does, but then how does he do that? And so, and the answer, look, the real answer to that question is I don't know, and neither do you. We don't really know how Satan does what he does. So I started trying to think about, okay, well, what would be something that he could do that would still allow me to have choice? Because choice is really important. He can't force me to do anything.
Right.
So that's where shifting came from. He moves people from reality to reality without them knowing, with these tiny differences, tiny differences. And then it's about how you're going to respond to that. How are you going to respond to that when your wife says, I told you to pay the bills? I don't remember that. How many times have my wife and I had that conversation? Many times. We've all had conversations where people, what's that? Pay your bills. I know. Well, we finally resolved that by just having her pay all the bills, and then I don't have to worry about it. We're both happier that way. I do the dishes. We have trade-offs. But that's to me, that's where this comes from, is this idea that there are things that are happening that none of us are aware of, that are influencing and giving us opportunities to either show our worst self or our best self. And it wouldn't really be effective if people were aware of it as much. On the dark world, which is what I call the world where Kevin spends most of the movie, that's a place where Satan is already conquered. And so he's peeled back the veil, and he doesn't care. He doesn't care what they think or do. It doesn't matter. He's already won.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it makes sense that, it'd only be on that world that people knew about shifting, or, not everybody knew about shifting, because if there was, we'd probably be having like shifting clubs to where we all got together around and talked about, all the different places shifted. So, but yeah, this might sound a little odd, but when I was reading, about the dark world in the script, the closest thing that, it sounded to me like an accurate, and this might sound weird, but of hell, what hell would be. Not like fire and brimstone. I just never got that picture of what hell would be. I believe there's a lake of fire, but I think that hell's a separate place.
C.S. Lewis, The Great Divorce is a good description if you've never read that.
Yeah.
I have not read that one. Tell us what that one's about, Cara.
So, sorry, I had to noise management. It is an interesting look at heaven and hell, and like it's an extension of Earth. And hell is a place where, it's been a while since I've read it, but hell is a place where people, they're not even aware they're in hell. They kind of live like what they were striving for anyway, and they're never satisfied. It's a very sad place. Everybody's unhappy. Everybody's divided, and they even they have the opportunity to visit heaven, but they can't. None of them will even open, but they can't even let go of all that stuff and stay. They just go right back to their comfort zone, which is hell. Their comfort zone is hell. It's just an interesting look.
Yeah, that's
You should
fascinating.
read that one.
Yeah, I should. Yeah, no, I should.
So,
Yeah, I'll state for the record though, Kevin is not in hell. That's not. Some people I've gotten a lot of comments, not a lot, some comments of people who've watched the short and they're like, "Oh, he went to hell," and it's like, no, that's not what it is.
Yeah. Okay, so we got another fan question. Margaret Immel wants to know if the number of investors listed is just for this round or both rounds.
That would be a combined total.
Yep.
Okay. On to the next. So, Orlando.
Yes, sir.
What was your reaction to the script overall? That, in spoiler territory, is there any certain parts of the script that you would like to talk about that, really touched you, and that you would just like to share your heart about that today?
So I'll be honest, wasn't a lot of that for me, because I was not looking at it from that perspective. I'm looking at it from how this translates to the screen, and the plot points make sense. I'm looking at it very business oriented, and I'm looking at it in like, how is this going to go over with people? What are we going to have to be, educating people on, and just, all of those dynamics. But, I think there was two big moments that really jumped out at me that I thought was like, wow, that's bold and exciting. One is in the very beginning, or towards the very beginning, when we have the time jump, when we realize just how long he's been stuck in this world. It was very Avengers, although this was before.
This is before Avengers Endgame had come out, is when I wrote it.
Before, right? Yeah, and in fact, I remember when I saw Endgame as like that same, like, everybody's breath being like sucked out of them in the theater when you see the 5 years. It's like, yeah, it's that. Like, that's exactly what it is. So I like that. And I like towards the end where he's snapped back into, after he goes on his shifting adventure and gets snapped back, and we have to resolve everything in the bad world, the bad place, the dark world. So for me, I'm a little I don't know, I'm a little crazy, I guess, but like the times where we really do dive into the darker and a little more heavy, emotionally heavy stuff, like those are things that get me excited, because I know we don't do that enough in the faith-based storytelling. And so anytime there's moments that are very, well, I would say bold and risk-taking, like those are the things I get excited about. We're not playing it safe. Brock is very much, on the fringes here in terms of what people are used to seeing and what they're used to palating. And that's exciting. So my take on it is very much excitement for the trailblazing script that it is. It's new ground, and we don't know how everyone's going to react to it. We can guess as much as we can.
Gotten a better idea lately.
Absolutely. And, and to be fair, we expected a level of that, and we planned for it. That's part of the reason why we did the first public viewing of it was at a church, was because, we were very much like, it's not the secular world that we're going to have to win over here. It's the faith community that we have to win over, because we are not doing what they're used to seeing.
Right.
And and to a certain extent, I think we were spoiled with how everyone was just so receptive to it, even through the last crowdfunding round. But it's fine. And that's just, the closer we get to this being more reality, the more we're going to see how it's really playing out for people. But it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we're doing something new. We're doing something different. And that's awesome. That's exciting. And I am really pumped to see what happens.
Yep. And kudos to your church for being the first ones to let us through the doors, because there was some nervousness, I know, within your church community, within the pastors there, where they were just not, like, they liked it, but they really weren't sure how their congregants were going to react to it.
Right.
But they were bold enough to say, come on in, let's do it. We think this is good, and we believe in it. And so major kudos to them. They were really, really awesome. And they have continued to be. We're going to be shooting some of the movie there. So been very, very supportive.
Cara said people aren't going to want to get up and go get popcorn. I think it's also going to be something that people want to watch a second time. After reading the script, I go back in and I watch the short, and I pick up on things and watch it again and continue to pick up on things. So people are going to watch it again and again.
So multi-layered. You have to, like The Chosen, you have to watch it over and over.
Yeah.
Brock, we got a comment from Debbie Paulson. She said, Brock Heasley, you have to sing This Little Light of Mine this time.
No, I don't. No, I don't. I will dance for nickels, but only metaphorically.
Janice Barfield said, made an investment via phone. Don't know if it went through. Could you please check? Thanks.
Janice, yay, thank you.
She said she made an investment via phone?
Yeah.
I don't even know how you would do that.
just probably on her phone.
Maybe. Sure.
Okay. Sorry, I was thinking old school. Why did I go
Not
there?
she wasn't that texted
Yeah. So anybody who's having any trouble with the investment at all, I highly recommend you hit the green help button on the website. If you're having any trouble with that, please private message us at the Shift Film page on Facebook with your email address and your phone number, and we will have somebody give you a call. We're happy to do it that way as well. But you don't want me helping you because I don't have any idea, but I know how to get you in touch with the person who does.
Okay, I'm not sure why Kyler Cook asked this, but what independent film gets the latest tech for free?
None. Ours.
The Shift.
Ours. The Shift does. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so getting back to the script. Colby, spoiler territory. Go wild.
Here we go. So this kind of goes with that the subplot and visual, like everything kind of mentioned before. But yeah, exactly, kind of get into the details of it. I really like the approach because, like I say, like with a lot of like Christian films, it's almost like in a sense like a game of whack-a-mole. It's like everything's like, good and whatnot, and like, oh no, something bad, and whack it away. Something bad, whack it away. Oh no, big one, ba 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 ba, and then all right, we're on the clear. But with this story, first of all, I really love how the beginning, it kind of foreshadows like, well, what are we gonna do when everything goes bad and whatnot? It kind of foreshadows that sense of, well, what happens when everything kind of crashes down. And the whole kind of the overview that we see is basically he gets shifted to his realm, and it's like, yeah, the thing, everything crashes and everything's like down at its worst. And each like sub story that happens is almost in a sense that kind of a progression story leading up to where he kind of makes his journey back home in a sense. So it's like, he's first down. It's like, then it's like, it's kind of with himself. He's stuck in the, it's like that motel's almost like, that motel's almost in a sense kind of a confinement where it's like, it's kind of, he's kind of stuck with himself in a sense, and like in the worst circumstance. So out of that is where there's that first initial hope, which is where it's like, he just typing up, what he remembers from the Bible. And that's kind of, it's like that, it's like a blurred sense of, that kind of desire for hope. And then as he's kind of going on with kind of like the survival trying to press on, we start seeing that progression where it's like, he's in a sense, he feels like it's like he's not exactly, the best person, but then at the worst, you start seeing a bit more of that light kind of coming out of him. And then that's where he meets, that's where he ends up meeting like people like Rajit, and then he starts like pursuing learning more about how this kind of world kind of focuses on kind of like the negative side, and he's like, well, he's on the almost like this, the heroic side where it starts pressing towards like the light of it, and then more and more we start seeing once he starts seeing with the Vika viewer, then it's all of a sudden it's like that's almost in a sense where he starts kind of seeing that hope, which we kind of see kind of visualized is Molly, where it's like that's kind of like where things were kind of good. What if everything goes wrong? It's almost that separation, and then it's almost like that kind of relationship story is almost kind of another kind of indicator of when things kind of reconnect back together. And then of course kind of like there's what I think of is like the peak, or at least the climax for Kevin as the character is with this little Light of Mine song, where that's where he starts going to tears because that's because up until that point it's like it's like that struggle of hope, and then right where it's like he encounters that light, then all of a sudden it's that hope inside of him that grows, and that's what he starts carrying on with towards the rest of the story, which is almost in a sense the action and in a sense the shift of his character and his personality, where it's like he was, he's kind of more kind of exactly kind of grumpy and kind of like, whatever. And then from that point where it's like he shifts, almost in a sense, he shifts spiritually that guides him to then the action, kind of the physical shifting leading up to where he finally gets back to where he was before.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's good summation. Go for it. Go ahead, Noah.
Yeah, and I liked what you were saying there about the Vika viewer, because it is like the Vika viewer. You remember when Ramirez was saying that, this used to just be a place where people would come to see their dops, enjoying themselves, to see them rich or having a good time or something like that. But it's become dark, really, and said it makes me wonder if that wasn't the plan all along.
Mm-hmm.
That was the plan all along.
Oh.
But it was like, that started out as the Vika viewer. It was a place controlled by evil. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, God intervened. It's like God intervened there. Something good, something that, completely shocked Ramirez and Kevin.
Or did he? I'll just leave that there. There's another way of looking at that, Noah.
Oh.
No, I feel very foolish.
No, don't feel foolish. No, I'm just posing a question. I'm just posing a question. Here's the thing. There is the storytelling that I like is one that leaves some doors and some windows open. So there are things that happen in the film that I know what the intention is and I know what's going on, but I do not put it out there. And there is a story being told that hopefully, I think with repeat viewings will probably become a little bit more obvious. But and so I do want to reward repeat viewings because those are the stories that I like the most. I love revisiting things that are complicated. I do not know. What do we? Oh,
what are we
we're at 10 views.
Hey, look at the record-breaking number we have.
Hey,
we haven't had too many people fall off from being spoiler.
Yeah.
But anyway, there's layers there. I mean, obviously there's layers. Hopefully, a good story has layers. But I would encourage you to think about things from different angles. You might come up with some interesting answers. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
There's no need to feel foolish. It's not on the surface at all.
Right. And to piggyback off of that, that's, to be honest, that's one of the things that I love most about Rock's writing, and that's why we work together so well, and why I get him involved in as many projects I have going on as possible. Is that he really does value the dynamic of not telling you everything and letting some things lie just below the surface. That he's a master of nuance and subtlety. And I love that. And I know he does. And that's why we collaborate so well. And that's not for everyone. Some people, that kind of bothers them and we get this from clients all the time. Where it's like, you got to say this, and that. Like, well, we are saying that. We're saying it better. we're letting people think about it and chew on it. But, and there is a ton of that in the shift. I mean, I think it's a huge dynamic of the story. I mean, and it's these parallels on parallels in a story about parallel worlds, right? And so like there's so much meta. There's so many things buried under other ideas. And to your point, I think when you go back and you watch a few more times, those things will naturally unearth themselves because you'll have the full picture to reflect upon. And I think that's great storytelling. That's just great storytelling.
And it is really hard with a script to see a movie. You guys all have one in your head, and I've got one in my head, and that's the one that I tried to put on paper, but I can't possibly, like, if I were to actually write down everything that's in my head that I'm trying to make into a movie, it would be thousands of pages long, not 127.
Right.
there's so many
Right.
more things that we're going to be doing, and that movies allow you to do. When I'm writing, some of you have read some of the the books I've written, and that's it. It's all there. You know, and I can I mean, I wrote a book about my dad, and it's 330 pages long, or no, I think it's 200. It doesn't really matter how many. It's a lot of pages, and the whole story's there, and everything I'm trying to say and represent is in there. But in a movie script, all I can really do is give you an impression of what it's going to be. I can't give you the whole thing. It's
Right.
just not possible.
And Brock and I were just talking about this the other day. Um, there's a lot of stuff where even as I understand it, and I'm reading through it, and we'll have conversation like, okay, so is this what is the tone here? What is the intent here? How is the actor going to play this? Because depending on the performance, this is going to work really, can be great, and I see it. But if that performance is this way, I don't think that's going to really work with the overall narrative. And so there's all these different dynamics that we behind the scenes are privy to. Like I feel like I'm pretty in tune with what Brock's trying to put on the screen, and even then, it's just by what he's allowed me to understand from the right questions that are asked. But that translation from script to screen is a big one. There's a lot there, that there's a huge jump, because you, like you said, you just have more or less a description of what's happening, and the actor performances, the camera angles, how long those shots go, the music, the music cues, the sound cues, like all of that tells different parts of that same story. And so, yeah, it's going to be even more exciting when it's all done.
Yeah. If we do our jobs right, it will be. I think we will.
So we got a question from, and I have no idea how to say this person's name, so I don't want to get it wrong. So I'm just going to ask somebody else if they know the pronunciation.
I can't tell where you're pointing. We can't read it.
What's the question?
Salvador.
I'm gonna guess
Salvador?
Nushig Salvador.
Nushig.
Salvador.
Yeah.
Okay. Nushig Salvador commented, "When will shooting start?"
If everything goes well, we are really hoping to start shooting in the fall of this year. So we got about 6 months, but that's if everything goes well. If it doesn't, then maybe winter. And then if we don't hit winter, then I really don't know, because we don't want to do this during the warm months. So yeah, it's just, again, it's that scaffolding. We've got to build that foundation first, and then we can figure out everything else.
Okay, so who all hasn't answered the question about how the script, your reaction to the script in spoiler territory?
Yeah, I just have something really quick. I like recurring things that happen in movies and books. So I like the opening of the simple opening of the nightstand every day. That's that always, things like that is what draws me into to movies and books, are recurring things. And this little light of mine, that's I like recurring elements. I'm simple.
No, I don't think there's anything simple about that. I think recurring elements are a fantastic tool to point the way towards what the story is and what it's really about. You're attracted to that because they're powerful ways to tell a story, and you're keying in on something that isn't said but more just presented, and you're rightly seeing that as something important. When something does recur like that, it's because the storyteller is telling you this is important. This is thematically on point, and pay attention to this. Yeah. There's a few lines that repeat from different characters throughout the script. And that's not me being lazy. That's me saying to you, this is an important thing and you should pay attention.
Because there's nothing more that clicks in the back of your mind than a reoccurring element. And it really makes you think there is something more to it than just hearing it one time.
I'll give you an example that I'm thinking of. There's in the very not the very first scene, because the very first scene of the movie is kind of a flash forward, but after that scene, there's a conversation that Kevin has with a coworker, and that conversation ends with the line, "What are you going to do?" And his coworker asks him that. And there's another character that asks him that same question later on. And that's not an accident. That's intentional.
Yeah. The art of the callback is again that subtlety and that nuance that I said that Brock is really great at doing. And it not just it doesn't just serve as a reminder that this is important, but there is a dynamic of rewarding the viewer. If you're paying attention and you catch the repetitive nature of it, you go, there. And that interaction with the film makes it that much more engaging for the viewer. You feel like you discovered something, like I have the inside knowledge to what the writer is doing here, as opposed to just I'm watching it and it goes through and it's done. Like there's that buy-in, further buy-in. So it serves many purposes. And again, that's a testament to strong storytelling, strong writing, which I believe Brock in fact does have. So
and it's the anticipation. It's the anticipation of one of these times it's going to be different. The results are going to be different.
The mailbox.
Yeah.
The mailbox.
Can I piggyback on what Orlando was saying as far as it's a payoff? I think it also goes to speaking to your viewer. If you have a smart viewer versus a lazy viewer, and I think that we're talking about a lot about the faith-based people want the story fed to them, and I think that goes along the lines of there's a new. I think 2020 saw a shift in a lot of things, no pun intended. But it's like the wheat and the chaff. And I think it was also with the faith-based community in the film industry. We were, we all grew up with these types of movies, and we kind of grew tired of them because it didn't speak to the reality we lived in. It didn't speak to who we were. Those of us who raised up in a certain kind of religion or denomination, we grew up and found our own Jesus. We didn't just find the Jesus of our parents. And when you do that, you come into your own, and then you want to see the Jesus that or whatever message you know in a message. You don't want to see your parents. And I think it speaks to a newer generation. And I think the same thing with The Chosen and The Shift. I think it's a new generation of faith-based movies. It goes across all genres and it goes across, all peoples. And I think that you are at the cusp of what it is. We're not our parents and we don't see things like our parents, and we are in a different reality. And you're speaking to a smarter per se, peoples, and I don't mean just mentally smarter, but spiritually smarter, and the tricks of Satan and the enemy and who he is, and it's just like you got to be smarter. You just do. So yeah, kudos to y'all.
Thanks.
I think besides Brock, I'm the only one who hasn't gone yet.
Do it.
Well, I was born in 2007.
That's not very long ago.
That's horrible.
That's just yesterday.
That is after I wrote the short story. That's crazy.
Wow.
Jeez.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, anyway, I'm going to start out with a major spoiler here. This is the overall ending. This is all you need to know about the film.
Given the whole
major spoiler.
Is that a tesseract there on?
Yeah, what's with the cube?
What is the cube?
Yeah.
I have no. I just found it.
It's like a Minecraft shulker box.
That's hilarious.
I found that on Google Images. So, but no, the way Brock did it, it's not just Kevin dies. But yeah, it's a happy ending. Not everything's perfect, but
yeah,
it's a happy ending. And it'll surprise you. But a few things I'd just like to talk about that stuck out to me. And a few of these things, some be light, some will be dark, but something I thought was just interesting was in, like, you know, that scene when Kevin's talking to Gabriel. And I think you did a video on that, like a reading with Greg and
My friend Deep.
yeah, Deep. So in that scene, you know, it's just the thing about this runty boy, and then these two other boys are like beating him around and everything, and then like this other boy comes along, you know, and challenges them, and you know, you think like he's gonna be the hero and everything, and then he ends up throwing a rock at the runty boy afterwards, you know, and then Kevin and Gabriel come and they help him. And this runty boy ends up kicking Kevin, you know, and then it turns out, you know, Kevin's like, no, I'm going to throw a rock at him. You know, it's kind of like everything is wrong in this world. You know, it's like it's really become a place for everyone for themselves. You know, it's like we wanted to see that boy be the hero and everything, but you know, it's not always how life works. You know, and then Kevin comes in, you know, who you think's who like is the real, I guess you could say, in a sense, real hero, but then the boy kicks him. It's like we're not, you know, it's not always going to be, you know, we're a good side or a bad side type thing, but we're just people with problems. So I think there was something more that spoke in that scene, that a significance that not everybody might realize, but you know, I hope that they'll get that. And you know, and I have to tell you, like towards the end of the script, I'm never one to tear up, but you know, it's not that I'm not emotional. I get very emotional, but it's just not something that I do. But I almost, and my eyes were starting to water towards the end of the script, and I just listened to it again today, and boy, that's some great writing. But there's more to it than Kevin dying, and you don't even really know that he's dead, I guess. Well, I guess
if anybody's listening right now and hasn't read the script, which I can't imagine there are, they're so confused. They're so confused.
Well, he's dead on the Dark World, but he's alive in another multi-Earth. I'll just put it that way.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, look, we're in non-spoiler territory. Yeah. Kevin, I'll say categorically, at no point does Kevin die. If we're talking spoilers, he never dies.
Yeah. So the sign I put up earlier was inaccurate.
A little bit.
No idea where I found that came from, but I just found it randomly off of Google. So Brock is the only one who has not answered the question yet.
What is the question? Sorry, I've lost track.
Your reaction to the script.
My reaction to the script.
In spoiler territory.
Gosh.
Well,
I mean, look.
What's your favorite spoiler moment?
My favorite spoiler moment, I think, is it's funny because I think that Kevin and Satan's initial reunion after 5 years have passed, I think is probably one of my favorite scenes, if not my favorite scene in the script. I don't know. It's just something about, you know, Satan and Gabriel and Kevin in the motel room together, and Gabriel's scurrying around trying to clean things, and Kevin, you know, Satan's walking around basically strutting his stuff, and Kevin's just kind of paralyzed. Just that whole exchange, that whole dynamic that's going on there. I was really, really fun to write. And it was really my first time writing Satan again after many years had passed between doing the short film and doing writing the script for the feature film. And so I was really nervous to write that scene because you know, I mean, you think about Satan, he's this person that that we're fighting against and that we're trying to resist. But I had to make him into somebody that was a character and that came alive for me, and that I had to write and express ideas and thoughts and think about his emotional development and his and what motivates him, and and all these things that you don't necessarily want to think about, but as a writer you do. And so that scene was just really fun, and I think that was the scene that I wrote, and I thought to myself, okay, I think I can actually do this. I think that this can actually be successful because I can actually write this character still. He was the one I was the most nervous to write again. But I think the moment that is actually my favorite is probably the very end. Again, Kevin and Satan. Satan rants, and then Kevin, for the first time, really just kind of speaks up, and he says what's on his mind. He's challenged the devil before. I mean, he said the prayer, and we've seen that, but we've never, up until the climax of the film, Kevin never really has a moment where he just talks back, where he actually just challenges the narrative that Satan is putting in front of him. This narrative of God doesn't care about you, you're awful, and everything you've done that's awful makes you somebody that God doesn't care about, and that's why you're abandoned. And it's the first time when Kevin just says, no, that's not true. This is what is true. And so, go ahead.
Satan cannot stand to hear, like, the words no said to him, like, you remember, like, just when Tina the waitress, like he was saying, oh, stay, join us, and she was saying no, and then she got interrupted. He stabbed his knife in the air. Stay. He can't, like, that's how it is. Like,
absolutely. He does not like to be told no. He is kind of like, in my conception of Satan, he is a child pretending to be a father. That's really what he is. And if you go back and you read his dialogue, I think you can see that. He is a child pretending to be an adult, pretending specifically to be a father. Everything he's doing, I see him, this is my instruction to Travis, the actor who played Satan. I said, think of Satan as a false father. He is trying to do what God does, but he's terrible at it. But he thinks he's good at it. But he's trying to win Kevin over, and I'm here, I'm your friend. Let me teach you the ways. Let me help you out. That's his disposition, but he's doing it in a totally evil way. And I think ultimately Satan is envious of God. And I'm speaking now outside of the film, but this informed how I wrote him. He's envious of God. He wants what God has. He wants his power, and he's never going to get it. But he is also someone who used to live with God, who was cast out. And so in that way, she's a child. He's a child who's been refused. And so that's how I think of him. I think of him as a child who's pretending to be a father. And the father specifically would be God, our Father. And so that's all encapsulated at the end. He really Satan directly expresses those ideas. Well, not directly, more like indirectly he expresses them, because I don't know how in tune he really is with that part of himself. I think that's a part of himself, that's part of his psychology, but that he very much denies. But then Kevin just comes in and for the first time tells him no, and like Noah said, he does not like to be told no. Every time in the film when somebody tells him no, he gets very, very angry, and he can't handle it because he's a child, and children cannot stand being told no. They really can't. They freak out.
Yeah, and I liked what you were saying earlier about just the reunion, and he's just kind of in a mood, like, he's not being aggressive towards Kevin at all. And it's just.
Speaking of saying no, I think several people have to go on the panel. We've been going on to like 2.5
my wife's
hours.
Bugging me. She wants to go to Target.
We need to wrap it up. I'm so sorry, but yeah, I think most of our panel have to leave. But I just wanted to really quickly say, first of all, thank you for all the people who have partnered with us. I mean, we can see, listening to Orlando and Brock, how what incredible filmmakers they are, that we're doing different here that needs to be put in the world. We're tired of the same old. And these people are making this happen. And if there's anybody out there who is watching and they haven't made a decision about this or haven't really looked into it enough, I just want to share with you that for those of us who have invested, we did it in The Chosen, to be a part of that and to see what is happening in the world because of that. There's nothing like it. And the shift is obviously going to be the same kind of thing. It has an important message. It's going to be so incredibly well done. It's going to blow us all away. And but to be partnering with this group, we get to be a part of creating this. And it's such an amazing thing. We get to see it come to fruition. We get to know these people. Oh my gosh, these two men right here. We all love them and are so impressed with what they are going to bring. And we get to join them. And I think I don't think people realize what a special experience this is. And like I said, we're tired of seeing some of those movies. And this is our opportunity to help partner and bring this into the world. Brock has been crafted, as he said. And if y'all haven't watched the video, I think we put out today, the story behind this. He's been crafted by life to create this story. God is working in this, and we can be the hands and feet that help get it there, and then we can watch what God does with it. So I just encourage anybody who's on the fence to look into this and consider it's a beautiful thing.
Thank you, Cara. Well said.
Awesome. Thank you.
Brock, can you sing the jingle of where people can invest?
There is no jingle, but you can go to angelstudios.com/the shift, and you can see all of our videos, and you can invest and go there. That's angelstudios.com/the
There's
shift.
9 days left.
9 days left.
Sorry, I talked to
9 days left, and I guarantee you that as soon as those 9 days are up, I'm going to get all kinds of messages from people who missed out.
Yep.
Because that's what happened last time. I do not have any idea, and I do not think that we're going to be opening this up again. I've been wrong before on that. So if you want to guarantee that you're going to get in on this, you better do it in the next 9 days. That's the only guarantee you're going to have.
Out of the jingle.
And enter your information correctly, because when you don't, you risk getting booted. It has to be precise because we're dealing with the SEC, and if they see the wrong name or a misspelling or anything like that, they freak out, and we've had people lose out because of that.
Angelstudios.com/the shift.
There you go.
There you go. There's your jingle.
So you don't need me to do it. You got you.
You can start using that, Brock.
So the up-to-date information is we have 1,031 investors at 434. The goal in 9 days, the minimum goal is 500,000. So getting close, 65 away.
Nice.
But we want to go way over that if we can.
Yes. Well, we do because and this is the thing we should finish on, is that we know that what happens after we close is that because some people entered their information incorrectly or whatever, that there are a number of investments that just drop away. And last time we did this, we ended the night with $170,000 in investment. But by the time all of the things were processed and mistakes that couldn't be corrected because people didn't get back to us, we lost $20,000 of investment. So we ended up with 152. So we need to get over 500. Because it's just every time one of these things closes, there's just some investments that drop off for one reason or another. Not because we want them to, but just because of mistakes. So it's really important that we get above 500. Really important. And I think we will.
Not at the last minute, because that's when you fix it.
Yep.
Right.
We will.
Yep.
And Brock, I had an idea. Maybe right before we jump, we could just show a sample of the audio reading.
Oh, yeah, we can show the beginning of that real quick. Yeah, and we'll just go out on that.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. This was fun.
Thank you, Brock.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you, Noah, for setting this.
Thank you, everyone. I had a great time with you today.
Rock. See you.
Bye. Thank you for your interest as a potential partner. Releasing a script in this way before the movie is made is unusual. I trust you will honor my faith in you by sharing the power of what you're about to experience, but not the spoilers. A note about this audio version. This is a reading of the full script and serves as only an impression of what the feature film will be. While you will hear some very good performances, they have been tuned for the listening experience and represent these actors' interpretations of the characters only, and not necessarily what the characters will sound or feel like in the finished film. If you believe this needs to be a film that potentially millions can enjoy, I hope you'll partner with me, Orlando J. Gomez, Dallas Jenkins, and the rest of the team by investing today at angelstudios.com/theshift. Thanks. Brock. The Shift. Feature film. Draft 9. Written by Brock Heasley. Performed by Brock Heasley, Miranda Cameron, and Danny Cameron. Exterior, Bass Lake, shore, day. Gentle waves lap onto the mountain lake shore. A fully clothed man emerges from the water and pulls himself onto dry land. As he stands, a mixture of water and blood trickles from his right hand. He looks around, not sure where to go or what to do. A light breeze pushes through the pine trees in the distance. Exterior, Bass Lake, road, day. The man, now mostly dry, walks the mountain road toward the nearest town. Below our field of view, he hits his injured arm over and over again, wincing each time. A car whizzes by. As it leaves, it reveals the man is gone. Disappeared. Cut to black. Title on black. The Shift. Interior, business office, day. A man stands triumphantly on top of a mountain, his arms outstretched in celebration as the sun's rays highlight him. We slowly pull out to reveal the man on the mountaintop is an image on a motivational poster reading Ambition. It hangs next to a water cooler in a spacious office. A silently weeping, well-dressed businesswoman walks up to the cabinet beneath the poster to brace herself. We continue to the glass-walled office of Kevin Garner, a 30-year-old hedge fund bro who eats filet mignon like it's a basic food group and tips his barber with investment advice he'd never follow in a million years. This is the man we saw pull himself out of the lake. He's on the phone.
Telling you, if there's one safe bet, it's housing. Mortgages. Everyone's got a mortgage, right, Glenn? Okay, that's right. Your money could be doing so much more. So much more. Yeah? Yeah? Awesome.
Kevin leans over to the chart labeled, "The money I make, the suckers I take." He pencils in another in a long line of hashed notches, with a twinge of guilt.
You're making a wise decision, my friend. The
businesswoman walks by Kevin's cubicle. Her sobs catch his attention.
Glenn, I'm going to have to call you back.
Kevin hangs up. He follows the walking businesswoman to see her absorbed into the distraught investment capitalists and money managers littering the office, not answering their ringing phones. Exterior, Madison Avenue, day. Kevin exits the building with his cardboard box of things in hand. Taxi horns blare. He ambles away from the building in numb bewilderment. Rushing past him with their own boxes in hand are women and grown men, professionals, with wet faces. Kevin, haunted, stops to survey the scene. A fellow hedge fund bro sidles up alongside him.
You believe this?
Kevin looks down into his box. Among other things we see, his framed degree from Columbia Business School, a laptop, a pad of paper he never used, and, most significantly, an award for Investor of the Year.
Shut down. And for what? Giving people a chance at the American dream? What we sold, they couldn't afford. You mean a place to live? A home? You do realize we're the bad guys, right? Maybe I'll give old Chuck at Lehman a thrill and take him up on that dinner. What about you? What are you going to do?
Kevin leaves hedge fund bro and walks with purpose to the trash can at the edge of the city sidewalk. He dumps the entire box and its contents almost without thinking, then keeps walking. Hedge fund bro calls after him.
Hey, Kevin! What are you going to do?
Interior, hotel bar, night. A glass is filled with beer on tap. It slides over to Kevin, sitting at the bar. He is withdrawn into himself, ignoring the drink in favor of a gold sobriety coin he spins and fiddles with his fingers. The bartender gives Kevin a sideways glance and shakes his head. The TV above the bar plays the news of the just-begun housing crisis. Kevin is startled by a burst of laughter from a group of girlfriends at a table behind him. The sobriety coin drops and rolls away, disappearing over the edge of the bar. The glass of beer stares at Kevin. He tries to resist, but it's no use. Why shouldn't he drink? Today, he needs it. He grabs the glass and brings it to his lips.
Well, there's the saddest, most pathetic man I've ever seen.